Hey everybody, it's guys sitting in a room talking about stuff, and today is a very special day. This is the first episode that's going to go online.
Yes, it is.
Although it's not the first episode recorded, but that's neither here nor there. Today we are excited to be talking about 80's nostalgia and some of the things that either so remind us of the 80's or is from the 80's and kind of why why a lot of people are focused on that stuff. So we have a Halloween 2018 4K review.
I caught the last end of that. So, yeah.
And that's going to be coming at the end of the episode, or maybe not even the end.
Yeah, we can do it whenever you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, we'll bring up in the movie section will be a good part to put it.
That's a good thing. I think a good place to start is music.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you feel about 80's music, Kevin?
Well, as a whole, I mean, growing up, I never really liked 80's music. I kind of ignored it because I was more of a 70's and 60's type of rock and Black Sabbath and, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all the good ones. And then I didn't really get into the 80's music until I heard metal. And I didn't really like metal at first when I first heard it. Basically, I got a job where they listen to metal all the time, and...
Oh, come on, Metal's the best Pink Floyd album. But, yeah, Metal, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff there in the 80's. I mean, obviously I'm a Van Halen fan.
Yeah.
I think everybody is.
I'm
that's
on and off there.
Oh,
yeah. I mean,
here's the thing about Van Halen. It's so weird because they're one of those few bands where, like, there's a chunk of people that think they're a metal band, a chunk of people who think they're good old-fashioned classic rock. You got a chunk of people who think they were, like, pop music and stuff. And it's kind of funny that there's people in our generation who they only know Jump.
yeah.
Or they know Jump,
or
and
Eruption, yeah.
Or they know the Sammy stuff. They know the Sammy, and they're the pop fans. And nothing against Sammy Hagar. I like a lot of his solo stuff, and I even like the stuff he did with Van Halen. But they are Van Hagar, for good and for worse. There's a lot of good stuff they did, and there's some stuff on their 80's efforts. 5150. I would say the first half of that thing's pretty great.
Yeah.
And then the second half's got some weird tracks they got going, but for the most part, it's pretty good. 1984 from them. I mean, there's some tracks on the back. The last two tracks kind of almost feel like they could have been Led Zeppelin lost 80's tracks, and it's like, that's some cool stuff. Think about that.
Yeah, the thing that throws me off with Van Halen is more the singing. Like, I'm not really a fan of... I don't know him well enough to actually, pick out which one's singing which.
David Lee Roth.
Yeah, I know that's David Lee Roth and Sammy Hagar, and I know that one's better than the other, but I couldn't tell you which one's which.
See, Sammy Hagar's a much better singer.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about who's Van Halen do people like more, I'd say if you ask that question now, you're almost going to uniformly get
David Lee Roth
because, let's see, you got Van Halen 1 and 2, you have Women and Children First, Fair Warning, Diver Down, 1984 for Dave. You can really go into... those first two aren't from the 80's, but we're just going to consider them 80's because you can't talk about 80's guitar playing and not talk about Eddie Van Halen. I think he did for a decade what Jimi Hendrix did, and I think he did it longer. I would say he did... I mean, Dimebag Darrell did the same thing for metal. He changed everything with how he played.
Yeah.
He's one of those special guys. Also in the 80's, you get a different dynamic here. 70's was so guitar player and singer, and then in the 80's, all the bands I was going to list, I mean, obviously, there's
a list of, great guitar players and bass players that came out of the 80's.
Well, there's some that, I'm not even, a fan of their bands, but, the guitar players were insane. Not that I don't like them, but Nuno Betancourt from Skid Row.
Yeah.
Incredible guitar player. He's playing for Rihanna now. Think about that. you take like the best hair band guitar player ever. If you want to, no, Nuno Betancourt was extreme. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But anyway, you take this hair metal guy who could play anything, and now he's playing for Rihanna. It's like,
well. Hair metal. What was Quiet Riot? Was that hair metal?
Quiet.
Or was that
see, here's the thing. For me, I think of hair metal as that 85 to 89 period where you got ballads and Bon Jovi, which nothing against Bon Jovi, but like that's not what I think of when I think of rock and roll.
Yeah, well,
rock and roll is Zeppelin.
The reason I bring up
and
Quiet Riot is because you were talking about
the Beatles. AC/DC.
Yeah. But Randy Rhoads was the original. He started Quiet Riot.
Oh, and the Quiet. Well, see, that's why Van Halen, Quiet Riot. Who's one of the other guys?
Scorpions.
Scorpions, right?
Yeah.
All those guys. I don't consider them hair metal because they weren't.
They were more rock style.
They were still either rock or they were heavy metal.
Yeah.
They weren't. Hair metal's supposed to be.
Like
I almost
Motley
feel like
Crue.
I almost feel like it's a derogatory term. Like
it kind of is.
It's those Nelsons where they were like a corporate thrown together boy band with guitars kind of thing. Where, like, who gives a fuck about that?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but
it's more focused on the look than the. Well, I can't say that because their music is also like a main part of it. But they like incorporate their look as a huge part of it,
and that's cool. And I respect a lot of like stuff they did, and there's quite a bit of them that I like, and that's why it's like, where do we draw the line? And that's why if we consider hair bands to be like all of the metal stuff that's not thrash from the 80s, then I'm like, okay, you're giving me Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, you're counting them as hair metal. If we're counting Ozzy stuff in the 80s,
there's death metal and stuff like that. Like,
well, yeah, I'm saying there's that stuff, but like hair metal, like, it's so weird because like there's Kiss did stuff that was considered hair metal, Ozzy did stuff that's hair metal, Van Halen was called hair metal, Dokken was called hair metal, and there's all these
Poison,
bands, Poison's nothing like any of them.
Yeah, but
Poison is a hair band.
Yeah,
They're fucking sissies.
Yeah.
Now, fucking, you throw Van Halen 2 on, I don't think anybody's gonna call those guys all those bunch of sissy band. No, that fucking album kicks ass. But Poison's like, they're like dialed back, and they feel like there's like, the music was written by 15-year-olds who jammed on it, and we're like, but nothing but a good time. It's like,
but I mean, like, their music worked for their time, like when it came out. And
that's the thing. People who make stuff for their time and it stays in that time, like, people remember it nicely because of that. I think that's great. But there's certain stuff, like, I don't think anybody from any time is going to listen to Sgt. Pepper's and not sit there and go, wow. Because the production on that album is incredible. Dark Side of the Moon's the same thing. I remember, I heard it 40 years after it came out, and it was incredible.
Well, I mean, think about like 100, 200 years from now, people are listening to the classical music and stuff like that, like how we see it now. And they're going to be listening to Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, and all this stuff. They're going to be like, oh man, there's such diversity here. Like the Doors, there's like such diversity. And then they're going to get to nowadays, and it's going to be like, what happened? Everything blended together into like...
They went through the artistic dark ages. Where there were only Marvel movies and teen girls with big breasts singing about subjecting themselves to whatever. And it's like, that's some messed up stuff. Like, think about this. They're going to look through and they're going to be like, well, let's see. What's 2016, 17, 18 in a nutshell? Oh... that stretch of 3 years, nothing really happened except for a lot of sexual abuse. It's like,
yeah, me too.
My grandparents' generation fought a war to defeat the Nazis, who were the worst people ever.
Like the biggest war in history.
The biggest war ever against the biggest evil. And basically man triumphs over the ultimate evil. And then my generation's like, we don't need things that are good because... it's a product, and products are just products, and we throw them away.
You know, I feel like I don't even know. I can't say.
Joking,
I can't. Yeah, I know. I can't speak.
That's an exaggeration.
I can't speak for everybody, but I almost feel like people are discrediting things because they're not new. Like
I had somebody tell me they want AIs to write lyrics and songs and stuff, and I'm like, you realize that'll ruin all art?
That takes the art out of it.
But here's the thing. All the stuff they have of AIs coming up with sentences are just a thing coming up with random sentence generators. And it's bullshit because it sounds terrible. The lyrics are never going to mean anything because a computer can't get meaning.
Yeah.
It can only take what you're handing it and compute it.
Yeah.
That's what it does. It's really fucking good at it. It's better than a person can do it.
Yeah.
But
it can't make its own decisions.
It's not going to be like, oh, hey, yeah, thank you. Here you go. This is what you wanted. It's not, computers can't do that.
Part of the thing with it is mistakes. Like you hit a wrong note. You put a wrong stroke of a brush on there or something. And, like, the artist might think it's horrible, but it also could make the piece. You don't think Leonardo da Vinci painted Mona Lisa and then he's just like, I fucking hate that thing. It keeps looking at me.
He repainted it, like 50 times or something crazy.
Yeah, but don't you think he's trying to get rid of the thing looking at him the whole time or something? It's like every time, no matter where I go in the room, it's still looking at me.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, we got off track there a little bit.
Nothing says the 1980s like losing track of time.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Bunch of drugs, cocaine.
Wow. We're just going there.
Yeah.
No, that is funny. If you watch like the movie American Psycho, I consider that 80s nostalgia because it's taking place in the 80s. It's delving into like the yuppies and everything, and it's really interesting. It brings up an interesting question. That I really think it'd be better to get to after we do American Psycho.
Yeah,
but anyway, so American Psycho delves into this thing like yuppie culture, and he just decides to start killing poor people. Mm-hmm. Kind of messed up.
And he gets away with it. That's the
biggest part. If you have a dark sense of humor, it's kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
But it's also this thing where it's one of those films where I get to see, like, I think my brother said, like, he just flat out, like, didn't like the movie. He's like, that was terrifying. And I'm like, because he's a fucking yuppie from subdivisions. Yeah. Meanwhile, like, somebody like me, I love watching, like, it's funny because I'm not watching murder.
Yeah.
I'm watching Christian Bale joke about stuff as he runs naked down a hallway with a chainsaw, and nobody opens the door. They're just like, I got work in the morning. I don't want to.
Oh my God, that scene where he has to Huey Lewis in the news, and he's just like talking about him, like, yeah, they're the greatest band of the 80s.
Yeah, he's right behind him with an axe, and then you're like, ah!
The guy's sitting there like drunk as hell on a couch with plastic everywhere.
The hooker?
Flattening it out.
Was it one or two hookers?
I think it was two.
And he made one play with the other girl's asshole. Yeah, he's like, oh yeah. He puts her up, and then he's like, are you just gonna stare at it, or are you gonna eat it?
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's one of those movies where, like, if you had it in your collection and you have a small child, he knows how to work a Blu-ray player, I would lock that one up.
Yeah.
He's gonna be scarred because he's not gonna get that it's a joke.
Oh yeah.
So meanwhile, there's all this violence that's gonna just ruin him. He's gonna be screaming, and then there's this scene with a hooker getting told to eat ass, and then he's gonna be like, I eat ass, and then it's on you.
Yeah.
You're gonna get calls from the school.
I mean, that's why it's rated R. You're not really supposed to be under a certain age and watch it. So you might not get what they're getting for, like.
Yeah, some of those kids movies though, they hide stuff in there.
They do, but I feel like that's for the adults.
They put it in there because
really subtly.
How do you really get parents to want to see your movies again?
Exactly.
Look at Pixar. And here's the thing. I know we're supposed to be doing the 80s, but Pixar started in the 80s, I think.
Steve Jobs, man.
Yeah. Apple happened in the 80s, and there's a really cool Ridley Scott commercial he did in 1984. Definitely check that one out. It's a really cool commercial. But anyway, going back, my bad. He also did Gladiator. I mean, like, Ridley Scott's got a great discography. Filmography, I'm sorry.
Discography,
He also has a great discography. He's a jazz singer in his free time, and he plays in a band called the Chumbawambas. No, Chumbawamba did that, I Get Knocked Down. We'll leave that in the 90s episode, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Whenever we get to that.
We'll get there. That'll be...
90s is a good one, too. I want to hit all of them, but...
anyway, we'll go through
Pixar, that sidetrack, man. Wow.
Pixar's a great company. They make a lot of...
I'm almost certain they started in the 80s, and their movies, they're so good that even the adults come away and they're like, that was a good movie. And the kid had a good time. So you're getting your money because you're getting to babysit your kid because he's going to be shut up.
And they don't have the negative stigma that Disney has of making Hitler propaganda
wow.
for the Nazis. Yeah.
You just went there, man. Wow. Dude, you can't do this, because here's the problem. We get an award with Disney. I'm already attacking Marvel. They're not going to pull punches. That's the thing.
Shut down.
I like a lot of the Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
But there's certain ones where I'm like, Thor Dark World is not better than anything. Everybody's like, Thor Dark World's better than anything DC did. And it's like, okay, we've got the Dark Knight Rises, Batman Begins. Okay, I know I said them out of order.
People always discredit DC because,
they discredit.
They didn't have the budget that Disney has.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure WB has DC, right?
Yeah, WB.
They're still a bigger,
cash,
yeah.
But when Batman Begins happened, they didn't get that big of a budget, but they said, Christopher Nolan, you've done these cool movies. We'll give you a shot. Let's just give this up-and-comer a shot to make a Batman movie in real life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he makes the best superhero movie ever made, and then all of a sudden he comes back with his next one,
yeah,
and he bests that.
Yeah, he topped it.
Had Heath Ledger not died and been in the third one, holy crap.
I mean, the third one's still comparable to
all of them.
Third
one's still really good.
It holds
Tom
up.
Hardy's great.
Oh,
he's great in everything.
Yeah.
And we're doing 80s talking. Anyway, Batman.
Yeah. Bane didn't even start until the 90s.
Batman, there was some good Batman comics.
I have Keaton. But, whose Batman was in that?
Yeah.
Tim Burton. Yeah, Tim Burton.
There we go.
Yeah.
we meant to do this. This is a segue.
Yeah, we're bringing it back. Bringing it back around. I mean, we'll get back to music. But, yeah, those were my favorite Batmans growing up. Those ones. I mean, I grew up with the... Let's not speak of it. The George Clooney ones. But, yes.
Oh, it was one George Clooney one, and it is the worst superhero
Yeah, that's
movie.
right. It was one with George Clooney and one with Val Kilmer. Val
Kilmer was pretty good in the 90s. You could count on him. Heat was good. Tombstone, that's a good one.
Yeah.
We're back in the 90s, man. Gotta pull it back.
We're pulling it back. All right.
Back to 80s talk.
Now let's bring it back to music real quick.
Yeah, let's go back to music.
So we were talking about rock earlier. I was talking about Randy Rhoads with that. There's a good amount of deaths of great musicians in the 80s. Randy Rhoads, obviously, he was in Ozzy Osbourne's solo venture. He made Diary of a Madman and Blizzard of Oz. Through 1979 to 1972, where he tragically died in a plane accident. And then Ozzy went on to... In the months after Randy Rhoads died, he had Bernie Torm and Brad Gillis for a few months, just a couple months, and then they left. Brad Gillis joined another band. I couldn't think of it off in my head. And then they got...
Who were you talking about?
Randy Rhoads. Brad Gillis.
I think he was Night Ranger.
Yeah, that's what it was. Night Ranger. Yeah, he left Ozzy to do Night Ranger, and then they had...
He was good.
They had Jake E. Lee.
Jake E. Lee could play.
Yeah.
Jake E. Lee really could play.
They had him from 82 to 87.
Ultimate Sin's it's one of those albums where I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, it's up there with Paranoid.
Yeah.
It's the best metal album ever. But it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Ozzy never... I don't think Ozzy's ever put out I can't say he's never put out a bad record.
Trash album.
He's never put out a trash album in his classic period. Before the 90s,
yeah.
He'd never been in anything bad. I don't even know if there's anything specifically in the 90s I think's bad, but I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I'm just so...
Zakk Wylde joined
I'm mixed on Zakk Wylde.
Yeah.
That first album with Zakk Wylde's good.
Yeah. I mean, he's an amazing guitar player. Can't discredit him.
Not a complex guitar player.
Yeah. The complexity.
He'll wreck the crap out of a pentatonic scale, though. He can play it real fast.
Simplicity is key a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the only death in the 80s, though. There's obviously...
Bon Scott.
Yeah, the death of Bon Scott, the singer of AC/DC, and that... How long did that put him out for?
What, AC/DC?
Yeah, with Bon Scott.
Well, when he died, they got Brian Johnson. They put out Back in Black that year.
Oh, yeah? They continued it.
They did pretty good with that transition.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin lost John Bonham in the 80s.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, that totally killed the band. I mean, you can't have Led Zeppelin without John Bonham. He's the driving force.
I remember when people would tell me, they're like, oh, they could have gone on with somebody else. I'm like, who could beat a drum kit like him?
No.
But here's the thing. Led Zeppelin was one of those bands where they were so perfect all around, you couldn't replace any of them.
Yeah, exactly,
I mean, I've heard people say, oh, you could replace Robert Plant with Freddie Mercury, and I hear that all the time, and I'm like...
It wouldn't be the same band.
It's not the same band.
It'd be a different band.
The lyrics would be different. I mean, it'd be interesting, don't get me wrong, but Stairway to Heaven's perfect.
But I mean, like, yeah, if you put any great musicians together, I mean, that has been proven to be a bad thing.
David Bowie could work with everybody.
Yeah.
He could work in Zeppelin, but they'd have been totally different.
Yeah,
it had to have been more diverse, and I don't know that Bonham could drum that. I mean... He'd find a way, but...
It wouldn't be Zeppelin, because Jimmy Page was Zeppelin. He wrote... He had their direction in mind.
John Paul Jones...
He did a lot of work.
He did a lot.
He
did everything.
Yeah, he doesn't get as much credit for as much as he should, because he consulted a lot. He helped doing this. He was one of the greatest session workers of his time when he was doing session work. And that's how him and Jimmy got together. Yeah.
And then Robert Plant was pouring cement.
Yeah.
And Bonham was like working at a bar or something.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, I think Robert Plant knew John Bonham, and that's how they got them.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some
nothing
pretty
says
big...
an 80s podcast like the 1970s.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, I mean, that's the end. Like, yeah, that's a great band, and then just to have something like that end it. That
Coda
sucks.
came out in the 80s.
Well, Coda came out after he died. That's
82, yeah.
Yeah. That was, I think they put that together, and he did a Coda because Coda is the classical term for the end.
It's so sad because you have to sit there and think about Led Zeppelin. It's like, how good were they, man?
Yeah. Oh, they only lasted 11 years, 12 years, something. Yeah, I think it was 11 years.
Well, yeah.
If you don't count their like if you just in their performing years, 11 years.
Yeah, like 11 years.
Yeah.
I think they did some shows in '68 because of Denmark, but I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, that's
when...
they
did it before the album came out, I thought. So, yeah, it was like 68.
Mm-hmm.
So, 68 through... But I don't know that they did any shows in 80. They might have done it like early 80, but Bonham died like...
82?
Well, no, Bonham died in 80.
Oh, yeah, that's right. 80, yeah.
Yeah, Bon Scott also was 80.
I think their last show was 79, something like that.
Yeah, there's some stuff with Bon Scott from 1980, and apparently... I always hear this rumor that like Bon Scott wrote Back in Black and that they recorded some of it. And I'm like, if that's true, I want to hear it.
Yeah, for real.
I'm like, I'd pay good money to hear that. So, like, honestly, if there's a company out there that wants to feed off of nostalgia, I'll do it because one of my favorite companies, Scream Factory, they released these really cool Blu-rays. And they're like deluxe special Blu-ray double disc editions of 80s horror movies. They do other movies too, but a lot of 80s stuff. So you got everything from an underground movie like Hell Night to they have Return of the Living Dead, which every punk from the 80s knows that movie. That's a good one. Brains, send more paramedics. I mean, that's jumping over to movies.
Yeah.
80s horror, man, it was everywhere. And here's the thing, it's because there were fun ones, there were scary ones, there were psychological ones.
There's even ones like E.T. That wasn't necessarily like a scary movie, but it was like, for a little kid, it's kind of scary. Like, it scared the shit out of the actress when she was a little...
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore. That was a legitimate reaction of her seeing that alien for the first time.
I think I was weirded out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
E.T. weirded me out.
Yeah,
I only saw it for like the third time recently.
Yeah.
Like, E.T.'s a good one. That 82 season, listen to summer of 82, had E.T., The Thing, Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
Let me see. There wasn't an Indiana Jones. That was 81, right?
Indiana Jones was 81. Rambo First Blood, 82.
Rambo First Blood was that summer.
Yeah.
Wrath of Khan was that summer.
I didn't write...
82 had some good stuff. Especially for sci-fi, if you think about that.
Yeah. '80s was great for sci-fi. Oh my god!
Blade Runner.
Second half of the beginning of the Star Wars trilogy.
Star Wars, yeah. Empire Strikes Back. You got a really good. That's a really good. The thing about Empire that I think still holds up is how good it looks.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was shot really well, and Kirshner, he brought a little bit of an art house underground kind of look to the movie. So the orange and blue palette that he brought is something that's in every movie nowadays because they can color correct. Back then, they actually had to light it. So they did that movie with lighting in orange and blue in spots, and they had to really go all in on it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's some images in that are absolutely incredible that CGI will never be able to do because it has to be real.
It was all practical. Like, a lot of it was practical. I can't say it was all practical. There was CGI in there, but, I mean...
in the original version of Empire, there's no CGI.
Yeah. They did little models and stuff like that, and the quality of it is insane on how they got that to work. It changed the way that a lot of that was done.
See, here's the thing. They kind of took... I mean, they learned from what 2001: A Space Odyssey did.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. There's doing models, which a lot of the times, yes, models in a lot of movies aren't going to be that great. 2001: A Space Odyssey and Star Wars and Blade Runner all have incredible model work. Well, it's mind-blowing how good it looks.
Aside from Blade Runner, there's space movies, so, I mean, like, it's easier to do that. But, I mean, Blade Runner has, like, flying vehicles and stuff like that, so, like, you know, like...
I had somebody,
the blimp and stuff like that, yeah.
I had somebody, they were like, in one shot, I saw The Wire, and it took me out of the movie. And I'm like, you can see a big green guy the Hulk, smack a tank and throw it across a field, and you don't bat an eye.
Yeah.
But you see maybe a wire on this actual car that they're moving with a crane.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean...
in a believable way, too.
Yeah, it's, like, incredible, some of the stuff they did back then, and it's like, special effects aren't special anymore.
Yeah.
And nobody gives a crap. And they're just like, old things are dated. It's so dated. Oh my god, you just have 80s nostalgia.
Well, think of the work that they had to put in to get that effect.
So much harder.
Yeah, nowadays you just put it into a program. Like, it probably does it some of the things automatically.
You know what happened, though? I think the industry really changed when... might have been 82. It was either 82 or 84. The Twilight Zone movie came out.
Yeah.
And on the set, a helicopter crashed and killed 3 people on set. Rick Morrow, I believe, or Vic Morrow, got it. He was decapitated. That's kind of terrifying. And it's all because they wanted to detonate real explosives with a real helicopter. I think ever since then, a lot of the big time people are like, we can't.
They didn't want to take the risks.
It's better. They're like in their head. It's better if we can find another way. Which I always thought Stanley Kubrick found cool ways to do stuff that didn't require CGI or didn't require anything. His movies are perfect as they are. But stuff with CGI, if you think of it like we can make anything we want happen, and we don't have to risk anybody's lives or do anything dangerous. There's something nice about hearing that because it's like. You know, are you going to put your neck on the line for a movie?
I feel like there's a way to push it up to the point where, it starts to get dangerous, but still keep it safe, and then add in the effects after for that.
Tom Cruise on Mission Impossible Fallout, strapped himself to a plane and a helicopter, and he actually learned to fly a helicopter, and actually does that scene where they're flying around those hills and stuff. Yeah. That's actually Tom Cruise flying a real helicopter. I mean...
yeah, he gets hurt for his job. He does his work.
He could have blown up in a helicopter.
I also heard he has a custom-made thong for his stunt work.
You know what's funny, though, about that? Tom Cruise, those Mission Impossible movies are like throwback 80s action movies. They got that kind of that fun feel to them. Which I think that's, if you have to put one word on the 80s, it's fun. 60s were about thinking and becoming human.
Yeah, figuring yourself out and all that.
60s was about figuring things out. See, 50s were nice. We
gotta go back
before. 50s, America was perfect. It's great. Everything's great. And then all of a sudden, the 60s, things aren't so great anymore. It's like, oh shit, let's figure some stuff out. 70s were like, we're still getting there, man. We're taking our time. And then the 80s happened, and all of a sudden, everybody's like, we haven't figured it out yet, but fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that I think so much of the nostalgia stuff that's for adults encompasses that. Like, American Psycho absolutely makes fun of that culture. What else does? There's other 80s stuff that does it, or is it... You know what? I see American Psycho 10 times, and all of a sudden I'm like, that's the only thing that happened?
that's the only thing in the 80s. I got a bunch of movies here. I mean, like, there's some classics that came out then. The Goonies, Breakfast Club, Karate Kid, Back to the Future,
yes.
Top Gun,
yep.
Die Hard, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, Scarface, The Predator.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
There's so many movies that came out in the 80s, and it's awesome.
Well, yeah, and that's just mainstream stuff. Like, and if you're a horror fan, holy crap. I mean, we got
Friday the 13th, Elm Street.
We got more Halloween movies. Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 happens.
The Terminator.
Yeah,
that movie used to scare me. That's the first one.
I mean, I'll just rip off some 80s horror. I mean, heck, you got... The Fly, David Cronenberg's The Fly, if you don't want to sleep again. As we said, John Carpenter's The Things there. They Live by John Carpenter with the glasses. That's awesome. I came here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of ass. No. So, I think now would be a good time to jump in and kind of talk about the new Halloween movie.
Yeah.
They did it as a sequel to the original from 1978. But that series is really, I think a lot of people still think of that movie and its series as being from the 80s.
For me, that's the only one that I've seen, honestly. I haven't seen 2, 3, or any of the other ones.
And that's the cool thing about the new one. One thing I'll say is Halloween 2018 is a sequel to the original that you only really had to have seen the original because it's saying all the other ones didn't happen.
Yeah. I'm almost okay with that, though, because,
I mean, for you, you're like, I was in the original, man.
I mean, I guess, yeah, that could be why. But, I mean, think about it. Like, the original Halloween was... there's so much behind that. Like, it was an original idea at the time. You go to Halloween 2, and it starts to, like... It's a sequel. Like, you know how sequels are, usually. I mean, back in the 80s, they actually made some good sequels.
Yeah. This movie really kind of blew me away. I was worried when I saw the trailer, and it's like... What they're basically invalidating all the other movies, and they're basically saying that at the end when Michael could be anywhere, they're like, oh no, they caught him. It's like, wait a minute, are you kidding me? It's like, no, yeah, Michael escaped and we got him. Yeah. And now we're going to transfer him after all these years of keeping him at a prison in which we got him, and he's not doing anything. Let's move him. And it's like, some of that, I could see how a lot of people heard that, and I think they just went into the movie going, I'm going to hate this. I know for me, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's kind of an unrealistic premise. Like, why would you move a series, like a mass murderer around?
And then obviously he escapes.
Yeah.
And then he goes and murders a lot of people.
Yeah.
I don't want to do a lot of spoilers in this, because I know this is a review of the 4K, so I got to go a little bit into things, but I'm reviewing the 4K and I'm reviewing the movie because we only, this podcast just kind of started,
So as a warning, there may be spoilers, but light spoilers.
Light spoilers. This 4K is pretty darn great. I mean, I honestly, when I picked this up, I held this in my hand and I looked and I saw how shiny the cover on this is. This Best Buy exclusive Steelbook, if you can get your hands on it, which from what I figured, you probably won't be able to get it because this was the only one I was able to find, and a lot of places weren't going to get them. If you find the Steelbook, buy it and don't ask questions. Yeah, it's going to cost you $30, but it's worth $30 for this. Trust me, it's a really nice Steelbook. It's going to be a collectible. I really see it's probably going to hold its value pretty well. Like the Blade Runner 2049 Steelbook I got through Best Buy. That one's still holding its value. And then Annihilation on 4K, the Best Buy exclusive, that's held its value. So I figure it'll do fine. And at $30, I mean, this 4K looks really good.
Yeah, I saw the second half of it, and it's a brutal movie. It's pretty brutal.
Oh, it's brutal. Yeah. And you see all the textures on faces and everything.
Like the mask texture. When they get a good look at it, I don't want to ruin anything, but there's when there's fire and it really lights up his mask perfectly. You can get all the divots in there and stuff. The 4K really brings a lot out.
It really brings the texture through it. I don't know. It's so weird to say, but like on a 4K, the textures just look really good. That's kind of me championing the format more than championing the movie itself, but I haven't tried a Blu-ray onto a Blu-ray player to like compare it yet. But being that I like just got this and I want to get this review up and everything as soon as possible, I'm like, well, let's watch it, get this on, get it up. Here we go. I have a lot to go into. I'm going to say flat out, it's the best since the original. I have a lot of friends who are in love with the Friday the 13th remake, and I guess there's some merit there. When I was younger, I liked that movie, but like the older I've gotten, I've kind of realized I'm like, wait a minute, that Friday the 13th sequel, it's got its problems, but like, it's produced by Michael Bay.
Was it Michael Bay?
Yeah, it was a Michael Bay film, which
for Friday the 13th.
I'll give that man some credit. Michael Bay's not bad.
Oh
but,
yeah,
I mean, the movie's full of misogyny, like, and I'm not even like, oh my god, misogyny, but like, I'm not joking. This, I mean, there's some incredible stuff in that. Like, it's just like, your tits are stupendous is a line in that movie. Which I guess is okay, but yeah, the Friday the 13th 2009 movie, which is also a kind of a throwback in the 80s nostalgia world, but I think it's okay. And for Friday the 13th movie, it's probably one of the middle ones. I mean, they range in quality.
Yeah.
You can't tell me Jason X is up there, one of the best sci-fi films of all time. It's like, it's terrible, but it's actually enjoyable. I think that one's actually, it's a lot of fun.
It's a sci-fi, yeah.
It's an 80s movie in the 2000s. Mm-hmm.
Didn't Rob Zombie make a Halloween?
Rob Zombie made 2 Halloween movies.
He made 2 of them.
The first one I think's pretty good. The second one, it's so weird. I watched it, but I was sick.
Yeah.
I watched the first 30 minutes, and then I ran upstairs and threw up. And then I just have never wanted to go back and finish it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I understand why.
Yeah.
But I actually have never finished Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I have some friends who say it's one of the best movies they've ever seen, which is strange because I'm like, wow, you haven't seen too many movies.
Yeah, for real. That's a pretty bold statement.
I'm like, yo, bro, I'll blow your mind. You want some actually good movies?
Blade Runner,
man. Here's The Thing. It'll change your life.
Yeah.
I had a friend, he's like, I've never seen The Thing, but Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is, that's where it's at. It's like, Rob Zombie, I'm so mixed on him.
Yeah, his horror music, horror style music. I mean, he has his label. It works for him.
My man, one of my Facebook guys, he's got a group, Killer Flicks, and they talk horror movies all the time. But his YouTube channel is Drum Dums.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. Hashtag Drum Dums. Drum Dogs. Yeah, Drum Dums, man.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Yeah.
But no, what I was gonna say is he put like Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 as like his like number 4 Halloween movie ever made, and then he saw the new one. And he's like, "Yep, the new one's the best besides the original, obviously." And I have to agree because you have to sit there and think about something like Halloween and its franchise and what it means. And I love the first one. I mean, I think the first one's an incredible movie. I don't think there's a lot of people who are gonna fight me on it. Some hipsters might fight me, but I'd smack them with a
Halloween
fish.
2's better, yeah.
Halloween 2's the best movie. No, Halloween 2's pretty good. I like Halloween 3 a little bit. I have a weird spot because the soundtrack's great. It's a little cheesy and hokey. It's supposed to be a retro 50s kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers kind of thing going on with witches and stuff and masks, which actually gets talked about in Halloween 2018. There's a scene where you see kids wearing the masks from Halloween 3, and I really thought that was a cool little touch.
Yeah.
David Gordon Green, who made this movie, Halloween 2018, he really is a fan of Halloween, and he talked about how like that was a huge influence on him. And on the 4K with the special features, and a lot of these, I mean, Journey of the Mask and Legacy of Halloween, it shows a lot of like how the team made this new movie and some of the cool things that happened on the process. And you know, you really see a lot about Michael and Jamie Lee Curtis coming back, and she really wanted to be involved with this, and it's cool to see her because it wouldn't be right without her. And none of the other slasher franchises have that girl. Heather Langenkamp with Nightmare on Elm Street, she's in 1 and 3. So she's kind of there. She's also in New Nightmare, which some people think's great, other people think is bad.
And she's one of the people that lived through every single.
She died in the third one.
She died in the third one, but they brought her back in the other one.
Well, New Nightmare is supposed to be in like a reality. It's Scream kind of. It was Scream before Scream. Wes Craven did it.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to come back to Nightmare on Elm Street, but he knew he couldn't.
So kind of like rethought it, like kind of
it. And it's kind of cool. But it's really one of those things with this new Halloween movie. It makes you wonder if slashers are back. Last year we got a couple, Strangers Pray at Night, Hellfest, and this one, particularly. I guess Terrifier, everybody saw it last year. Some people say it's a slasher movie. I would call it torture porn to the extreme, because I don't think there's anything of value in a movie like Terrifier. Meanwhile, Martyrs, I think, is a beautiful movie. Now, it's a messed up movie. Don't take your kids to Martyrs.
Yeah.
And the American remake's trash. The French one, it's worth investing if you like High Tension or the Hills Have Eyes remakes. Those are kind of messed up, but
I see what you mean, but I don't know. Like, you think those movies would hold up in 40 years from now? Like, do you think that they would have the same pool as Halloween did? Because like Halloween was such
so you're saying, do you think Halloween 2018 compares to what the original did?
Well, obviously it does. You already said that. It's the best since the first.
Since the original.
So it does. It obviously compares to it. It's not as good, but you know.
But like you're saying, like, are we going to be sitting here in 2058 and I'm going to be Strangers Pray at Night?
Yeah,
one of those.
Yeah, like you saying that slashers could be coming back, but like back then there was so many like big ones. There was big ones,
and that's not even delving into like other countries like Dario Argento and Giallo and everything that comes out of Italy. A lot of that like. They're slashers from the 70s. I love them. I love Giallo. The cool thing about them is there's a mystery element to them, which is really cool. But I really think slashers...
I feel like 80s, like in the 80s, it kind of took a turn because it's like 70s was... a lot of the movies were more like...
Make you think movies.
They were more make you think, like less like... Like there's this guy that you not really sure about. It's like you have a character and he's like living in a realistic life world, like something.
Yeah.
But like once you hit the 80s, you get like all these sci-fi type, or even late 70s. It's still towards the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm counting it as 80s.
Yeah, everyone started changing.
But you get like Halloween, you get Friday the 13th. You get all these characters that like wouldn't really realistically fit.
Yeah, but it's its own thing, you know, and it's weird.
Yeah, it just opened up so much to what like sci-fi and horror movies and all that could do.
Yeah, it was a delving into like a
less practical type things.
Less practical setting. They would do all kinds of things. I mean, there was a movie 976 Evil, which I'm not going to sit here and champion that movie, but it's from the 80s. It's a movie about a telephone line that connects you to Satan. And
it sounds pretty cool.
This kid starts getting like possessed, and then he's going after this girl, and then there's a house at the end. There's some weird effects. Like, that kind of movie couldn't come out today. 976 Evil got made. People financed that for millions of dollars. And like millions back then, a little like we're talking tens of millions today. $10s of million budget. I mean, yeah, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 got made, but do you think if I said let's make obviously instead of that it'd be 1-800-EVIL.
Yeah.
But 1-800-EVIL, I mean, right now Blumhouse is writing down on a note card. Hey, we got an idea.
Remake. We're
gonna remake it 1-800-EVIL, and it's gonna be so good. And it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, here's the big thing. This Halloween 2018, it's the first time I've seen a Blumhouse movie and was like, I was glad I watched.
Even the end of the movie, like what I saw, it's a really good movie. Like,
actually,
it's.
I think Get Out was a Blumhouse movie, so I'll take it back. Get Out was pretty good.
Yeah.
This movie, I like this more than Get Out. This is my favorite Blumhouse movie. It's the best thing they've done. The ending there with the flames. And
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Wait,
again,
just the flames.
Soft.
If you've seen
spoilers,
it,
yeah.
the flames, man.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, there's fire.
There's fire.
Now I could be talking about like a blowtorch. I could be talking about.
Yeah.
I could be talking about
a torch. You could be carrying a torch.
Michael's carrying a torch.
Yeah, back in the 1800s.
He's on Treasure Island and he's helping the kids on the boat.
Yeah.
It's a bold change, but this.
Yeah, it's a little flip there, and then he comes back and tries to kill everybody. It's just how we got back to the country.
It's a sing along. It's a great little.
Yeah.
It's a gay old time.
Yeah.
No.
Get back to the olden days styles of talking.
Halloween 2018. We're never gonna keep on track, man. We just. This is why we do 80s, because then it's just like shotgunning all over the place.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is, comparing it to the original Halloween 2 from 1981, 80s. We're talking 80s. No. The original Halloween 2 takes place at a hotel, a hospital, and Jamie Lee Curtis can't yell the whole time because where's suspense if she can't just be like, yo, somebody help.
Yeah.
Michael's coming. Somebody come here. Oh, wait a minute. That'd be a 20-minute movie.
Yeah.
That's got its cool moments, but it's basically a Friday the 13th movie, which depends on how you feel about that. Friday the 13th it's its own thing. It's not bad.
I didn't know that Jason wasn't in the first Friday the 13th until someone told me that.
On all the advertising, Walmart had a box thing with Jason on the front, and it said Friday the 13th. If you're a young kid, you pop that in, you'll be mad the whole time. You're like, where the hell's Jason?
Yeah.
Where's Jason?
Some old chick running around. Who's this old lady?
The lady from the Brady Bunch is cute.
Yeah.
No. Just about, though. But,
yeah, the mask didn't even come in until the third movie.
It's the Partridge Family killers in the first Friday the 13th. I have to say this, David Gordon Green, thank you, because this movie was really good. This was kind of like what Blade Runner 2049 was like last year. Speaking of 80s nostalgia,
God.
that was great. I saw it in the theater 3 or 4 times. 2049. I was blown away, and I saw it like IMAX over and over, and I was just like, I cried the first time because the whole time I'm like, where's Harrison Ford? Are we getting back to this?
Yeah.
Where are we going? And then. That's a whole nother thing for a whole nother topic for a whole nother episode, but this was really good. And there were some good special features on this 4K. I'm not going to lie. This movie, I'd probably say, if we're doing an IMDb scale, it's probably about a 7.5. That's how I feel about it, which is on par with some... It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's not... The original Halloween, I think, has a 7.9. Which, that's bordering on, like, being like, whoa. If you get into the 8s on IMDb, you're in the top, like, 300, 400 movies ever made.
Yeah.
I think Halloween, it's right on the cusp. I think it's good enough to be in that echelon, but I have to think about every movie I've ever seen, and that's not even every movie that's ever been made. Halloween's probably in my top 20 or so.
Yeah.
So, I will say this is a little bit... Not as good as the original. The original rolls a little bit better, but, it was a completely original movie at the time.
Could that be because it was more...
nobody knew what was coming.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Like, it was more of a surprise.
Slashers weren't a thing yet.
Like when you see this, you kind of know what you're getting into. But back then, you see a trailer for something like that. You're like, what is this? And you go to see the movie. It's like... probably life-changing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a whole string there. You just come off The Exorcist, and then you're there at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then you've got, The Omen. And
then they're like, what's wrong with people?
Yeah. But you had some good stuff there. And then Halloween kind of just basically took horror movies and went, instead of getting like 1 or 2 amazing ones a year, let's turn those 2 amazing ones into like 800 okay ones.
Yeah.
That is the thing about the 80s. I'll say this. 80s horror, there's a lot of good stuff, but my top 10 horror movies from the 80s, I mean, I might be stretching to, like, think from my top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got The Thing. Oh, somebody from Minnesota is trying to call me. They're trying to end the podcast.
Yeah, we're not even in Minnesota.
Yeah, joke's on you.
Wrong state.
So... Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, top 10 80s horror movies, I'd probably go The Thing... then a giant gap. No. Then there's everything else. No, I mean, The Thing's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good ones, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'd be surprised, like, the Fly remakes from the 80s. And
The Terminator is technically a horror movie. I mean, the
that's
first
a
one
good
is...
That's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Hell, I mean, it comes down to what your definition is. I mean, Brazil's kind of horrifying if you think about the concepts of it, because it's basically 1984.
Yeah.
That's an incredible movie. It's not a horror movie.
The Predator is a horror movie.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I know there's tons of great stuff from the 80s. It's just, I took all of my 80s horror movies and I moved them so I can't even look. I'm trying to cheat here. Oh. Anyway. Back onto the review. Yeah, this 4K is really nice. The features are cool. I'm going to say you can watch all of the special features in probably about an hour. So, I mean, I have friends that don't even watch them, so I guess for them, they don't even really care. Image looks good. Sounds good. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about the movie. I mean, there's some questionable calls in there that you're either going to like or not like.
As is with almost
everything.
Yeah.
It's a very kind of the synthwave score from John Carpenter and his band is very. They took a more experimental approach, and I like what they did. I'm a huge fan of this soundtrack, and it's a thing where, like, hearing a vintage Carpenter soundtrack just makes a movie that much better for me. I mean, I'm just a big fan of what he did.
It's that 80s nostalgia right there.
I mean, it's full. Like, that's Super Saiyan 80s right there. You know, John Carpenter is the 80s. Big Trouble in Little China. That's such a funny... I love Kurt Russell. It's just such a funny movie, man. Like... The 80s, man. It was like this decade, yo.
Yeah, I know.
That's what our generation's like. They were like, the 80s. It's like this thing. And it happened. It's like, wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You've added a lot of value to my life.
Yeah, and then the 90s happened.
And then the 90s are like, death to the 80s. Kurt Cobain just like,
me.
Brain freeze.
Brain freeze.
Meat, cheese, sandwich. I do like the 90s. So, I mean, obviously, there's so much...
We'll get to the 90s.
There's so much good stuff everywhere except for now. But no, there's good stuff now, and this is one of those things.
In 10 years, we'll get back to it, and then we'll realize what's really good.
I mean, I gotta say this. Danny McBride helped write this movie, and that's kind of crazy.
Danny McBride helped write Halloween?
Yeah, the 2018 Halloween, yeah.
Really?
He was a huge fan of the original, and he's like, yeah, I want to help write the story. It's like, wow.
That's interesting. That's a different take for him.
There's a 4K for the original Halloween, which I got, which I do want to do a review of that going forward, so that'd be cool. I had some people tell me that they thought this movie was dated. They're like, it feels like it's old. And
it's because it's like the continuation of a...
And that's the thing that bothers me. Like, you have a camp that love nostalgia, and, like, I'm all cool with nostalgia because it's like, what's so bad about feeling happy and good about past times of good things? It's like, how the heck is that bad?
Well, I feel like it's all how you're raised. Because, like, I feel like the way you and me were raised, obviously we were raised with all these older things. Like, movies from before our time and stuff. I feel like the people that don't care about, they're all, like, pop music and nowadays stuff, like, all old people movies and stuff like that. I feel like they grew up, like, their parents stuck them with all stuff that happened now. Like, nothing old.
Like, I don't know.
Like, I can't speak for them, obviously, because that never, like, I'm not one of those people.
I'm not one of them.
One of them, they're them and then me. That's how it works.
Us and them.
Amazing Pink Floyd track right there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not even fair, though, because, like, that whole album, like, I could just nitpick, like, I could just pick anything, not nitpick.
You could just say Pink Floyd is great, and then you'd be right.
I'd be right.
Yeah.
It's a correct answer.
It is a correct answer.
It's just cool to see the original Scream Queen back, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah.
This is like the first time she's agreed to do a horror movie in 20 years. And H2O's got its moments. It's got its cheese, though. It's such a Scream ripoff, which I wonder if we're going to be saying that about this one in 20 years. I hope not, because I like this movie.
Yeah.
So I said I think it's a good movie. I mean, I'm going to give this 4K release a 9 out of 10. I mean, I think they did a good job. I mean, I know that sounds high, but I only took a point off.
Yeah.
But I took a point off.
Yeah.
And I usually do half-point deductions. The only bad things about this release is they didn't give the alternate ending. And, I mean, maybe it could just be a little nicer. Like, some of the sound or the visual could have just wowed me. Because, I'm not just going to throw away, just throw around a bunch of perfect scores. So,
yeah.
I think a 9 out of 10 is pretty generous.
Yeah.
And I really suggest this one.
That's good. That's a good one. Yeah.
That's good.
The Halloween 4K review there.
I have all these other pages and pages of Halloween 4, the 4K, the new one.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna record that for myself.
Yeah, we could maybe we could come back to that with like the original Halloween 4K review or something. Yeah, and then you can just add in some extra
stuff.
For
the movie, yeah. Because it's just weird. With this movie, I don't know, I feel a little, like, run down today. Like, watching that, it was cool and it was a great experience, but, like, I just feel...
empty inside.
Empty inside.
It's like when it's like when you binge watch an entire show and you get to the last episode and you're like, there's no more.
Yeah. I hope there's another one of these, but I don't even know how to feel.
Yeah. I mean...
I think it's interesting with placing what we did where we did. My review was good, but I have no idea of how long we've been going. Like,
oh, that doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, speaking of that, Predator. 1987.
Dude, Aliens and Predator.
Yeah.
Amazing movies. When did Aliens come out?
Aliens was 86.
86.
That's a great movie.
When was Predator?
Predator,
I
87.
thought I had that written down. Okay.
Yeah, so the first two Alien movies came out before Predator.
Were they made by the same person?
No. Aliens was James Cameron.
Yeah, I know that.
He had Terminator.
James Cameron.
And then Predator was John McTiernan, who did Die Hard.
Another 80s movie there. Yeah. Well, were they originally the same universe? Because I know they clumped them in with Alien vs. Predator, and then they made that.
Dark Horse Comics in '89, late '89.
Okay, so it's still the 80s, and they come. Yeah.
AVP came out. That's some cool stuff. I'm a big AVP guy.
Yeah, I like that story. Like they have the Predators as the hunters, and they basically put the aliens on the planet.
Movies? We don't talk about those movies.
That's the only one that I knew there. I didn't read the comics, but
comics are a lot better because they have like Colonial Marines fighting both. That's cool. That's in the video games. It's in everything.
Yeah.
And then the movies are like Antarctica with some random people.
And Predator helps them.
That
movie was not good.
Who said okay?
That movie was not good.
Who thought that was okay? That was like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman looks like an Oscar-worthy film compared to that.
And they made a second one. I didn't see it. I'm glad I didn't see it. But I mean...
It's hilarious because there's a scene in that where a guy goes, honey, there's nothing in here. And then an alien just jumps in and stabs him through the head. And he's just like, oh! It's so bad.
Yeah.
Who okayed that?
So what was the original, like, mentality between the Predators and Aliens with that? Like, because that movie, they had the alien... Predators.
The Predator, like, releases the aliens.
Yeah, so that they can hunt them, and then
they either hunt them or they just blow the planet, or they
blow themselves up because they couldn't win. Fucking.
Yeah, they're losers.
Yeah.
Well, no,
sore losers. Yeah, sore losers.
Yeah. Aliens and Predator are much better than those. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Aliens has some really cool moments. It's one of those cool moments. I think women particularly love Aliens.
Of course, yeah.
It's one of like the first times like they got to saw like a woman like actually like severely kick ass in a movie.
Hell yeah, yeah.
But she had kicked ass in the first Alien, and I always bring that up, and people are like, "No, Aliens, the '80s," and it's like, "Oh, dude, like I like the '80s. Like we're not enemies here, but the '70s were pretty cool too.
Yeah,
I think the '70s were better, but."
Can't get to 80 if you don't have 70.
Yeah. Oh no, that's like some. It's just kind of like, and that's the other part of it. You have your anti-nostalgia people, you have your gung-ho nostalgia people, and then anybody who's in the middle is getting crapped on by both of them.
Yeah. Always get shit.
I'm on that edge where I'm like, there's a lot of good nostalgia, and then there's stuff that's like just trying to leverage the nostalgia, and that's the stuff that's not good. Like Ready Player One, that's good. It's using it and taking you into this weird video game world. That's cool. But just making a movie and then just going, it's in the 80s now. Please like it. Like, it kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, there's a balance you have to have for that.
Yeah, it has to like, have a reason for nostalgia. You don't just, 80s.
Some people just don't understand it. That's part of it. They don't understand how to work it, and they get it wrong, and they overdo it too much, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, this is straight 80s.
When I say 1980s to you, what do you think?
What do I think? Just generally the 1980s?
What are the big things for you in the 1980s?
Well, thrash metal, obviously, and all these movies. I grew up on these movies. Specifically, I mean, I didn't see Full Metal Jacket, Blade Runner until I was older, which unfortunately, I wish I grew up with those because they're fucking amazing movies. But I mean, I might have not appreciated them as much. That's part of it. But I mean, The Terminator. That was one of the first. My mom got me that on VHS, and I was watching that, and that scared the shit out of me. I don't care. It was a great movie. Die Hard. I've watched that. Scarface. Yeah, my childhood was filled with some horrible. Predator. Also, we were talking about that. Indiana Jones was a big part. I used to watch Indiana Jones a lot. And the Keaton Batmans. So I really had a lot of the 80s in my childhood, being a 90s child.
Wars?
Star Wars too, yeah. Star Wars, Back to the Future. Yeah, Caddyshack. Yeah. They were all on cocaine. Lots of cocaine. That kind of describes the 80s there, Caddyshack.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters. An amazing movie they ruined with the newer thing, but we won't talk about that.
We're doing 80s nostalgia. We're not talking about ruining the 80s. Yeah. Nostalgia involves good things, right?
A Christmas Story and a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yo, Christmas Story doubles up here because it's an 80s nostalgia, but it's about 50s nostalgia. And then people forget that in the 80s, people had 50s nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 90s had a lot of 60s nostalgia. 2000s had a bit of 70s nostalgia.
Yeah, it's back 30 years, I guess. Now we're doing 80s.
Generations and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's weird because we're on 80s, and I'm like, I guess the 90s are next, but we kind of have a lot of 60s nostalgia coming back again. We got Woodstock 50th anniversary is this year.
Yeah.
Are they going to have an actual show? Are they going to have a cool lineup? 50th anniversary, I'd go.
I guess. It'd be kind of hard to get, like, a lineup like they'd had, but...
Just get everybody they had who's still alive.
A bunch of like 80-year-olds.
Metallica from the '90s ones, and
I mean that'd be cool. Like they could make it work with some I guess not thrash, but you know.
yeah. You don't want Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and then
yeah.
Slayer.
Yeah, I mean bring back the ones that you like. That would be an expensive show, though. That would be an expensive show, and that's part of it. Like, you can't have that free show. Like,
they did it in the 90s, man.
That wasn't originally...
It happened, man.
Woodstock wasn't originally a free show. I actually know someone in my brother's grade's dad had tickets to go to Woodstock, but he didn't go because he didn't think it was going to be that big. So he didn't go, and then it ended up being, like, the biggest music thing like ever.
I didn't go, you know. I just figured I'd see Jimmy on the next tour. It's
right?
What?
Could you imagine if you went to the Led Zeppelin show instead, though, of Woodstock?
Would have been cool.
And,
still.
like, you could still be like, I went to see Led Zeppelin, who had a bigger turnout than Woodstock.
Yeah.
Didn't the Beatles do something like that too? Didn't they have? I thought they had.
They did the rooftop thing, rooftop concert.
I thought they did a sold-out show also at the same time as Woodstock.
No, it's weird because I don't think they did any shows. After 66, they only did that rooftop thing. They might have done some other stuff, like, as solo.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Okay, it stayed kind of separate there.
You got anything?
No, not really. I mean, that pretty much covers my views of the 80s right there.
It's weird because we didn't mention video games yet.
I know. I didn't write that down.
You got Donkey Kong, Mario, Tetris, literally every game your parents or you remember.
Yeah.
Depending on how old you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't go back as far as Pong, but...
Can't go back to the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
The greatest system. That system, man. There's some games on that are cool and good.
Speaking of some Steven Spielberg,
E.T. the video game. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Yo, can you imagine? There's got to be somebody somewhere who's like, my 10th birthday in 1988. You know what games I got? My parents didn't want to get me anything cool, so they got me an Atari 2600. That was like $20, and they got me 4 games. They got me E.T. the video game, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Back to the Future 1, the LJN game,
yeah.
And then you got the Friday the 13th video game that's absolutely terrible.
Oh
You're just like throwing knives and sticks and dung at people.
I'm amazed they have that. That's an interesting one.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Don't play. So there's some kid who's looking at this. He's like, I got Back to the Future. I got Friday the 13th. Oh, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
E.T.
E.T.
Yeah.
This is the 80s, man. And then
the next week is ruined.
they start playing, and they're just like, this game sucks. This one sucks too. I mean, that'd be like you're a kid and you open it up and you're expecting a PlayStation or an Xbox and you're there this past Christmas. You open it up, it's a Soldier Boy. It's a Soldier Boy, and it's got rip-off versions of everything, and then it's got like E.T. the video game on it like 800 times, and you're like, Dad, guess what happened? And he comes in and he goes, well, I remember for Christmas I got an Atari 2600. 4 video games that was worse than your Christmas. Shut up, you little bastard. Like, he walks over and kicks his kid around. He's trying to make him tough. You know? We're giving a little too much depth to this guy. Right? Oh.
Well, I mean, another part of the 80s, the ranking systems were a little bit different for like the ratings for movies, like Airplane.
Oh yeah, it's a PG, but
it's a PG movie. Yeah, and there's titties. I pointed that out the first time I saw it when I was a kid, and like
you're like,
it jumped out with titties, and I was just like, isn't this PG?
You're like, this is a great movie.
I was like, what does it take to get up to PG-13 in the 80s?
They didn't have it until after I think it was Temple of Doom.
Oh, it just went to PG to R right after that? That's what that was.
The first Indiana Jones movie is the movie that changed everything.
They had to have the PG-13 rating.
I can't remember. Yeah, because Temple of Doom's PG-13, and it's all because
the heart thing.
Yeah. But the first Indiana Jones, there was the ending when like the exploding and the aging and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was
terrifying for a little kid, like especially since like you're there and you're like, oh, this little Steven Spielberg movie, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. There's Harrison Ford's in it. He was in that Star Wars.
Open the ark. Face melter. Yeah. Like biggest 80s metal riff come out and their faces.
Tom Araya is just like going crazy. Is just like
Angel of Death.
Angel of Death. It's just purgatory. Like, oh my gosh. Like, this is intense. And he's just like,
that was the movie version of Slayer coming out there. Like, the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Speaking of melting, Pink Floyd, The Wall came out in 1982. Yeah. That's the one we forgot about, 82.
82. I mean, lots happened in 82.
That movie, you can't watch that if you're a kid, man. Like that, you're not going to be the same person.
Yeah, it's just pretty dark movie.
It'll get you.
It is a dark movie.
I watched it in middle school, and I was like, this is incredible, but I don't know if I want to keep living or
even
not.
That scene with the hammers, and they're just like turning, they start walking like Nazis. Oh, yeah. Like, it's just like, you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, the whole time. Yeah. It's amazing, but the whole time you're like, what the fuck is this?
And that's the thing. Like, I hear people, they're like, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, that was what
was
supposed to be going on,
the flower going into itself, turning into like 50 different things. There's like a vagina and like a head. And like...
I have so many Gerald Scarfe books of like stuff he drew like outside of Pink Floyd. Incredible guy. But the ones like all sorts of people from the 80s, and there's one for Michael Jackson, and it's all kind of little creatures and stuff. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Pink Floyd The Wall movie is incredible. I really think that's a good one. Alan Parker directed that, and he had done a bunch of stuff, but I think he did something that won like Best Picture.
The weird part is it's so schizophrenic of like a movie, but it works. Like it works together. Like you watch the whole thing and you're like, wow, that was the story of The Wall. Like you know what was going on.
When it goes to Another Brick in a Wall Part 2, that part's like incredible. Like the cuts and everything line up perfect. And you're sitting there going, damn, man, I am really glad I came and watched this movie.
You think when they were making Is There Anybody Out There, they were watching James Bond, and they were like, because that is the same.
It's the James Bond thing.
No, that's Is There Anybody Out There?
Is there anybody?
It's got the same James Bond like. But it continues with the Pink Floyd.
Yes, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I think of every time I hear that song. I think of James Bond.
I'm never going to be able to sleep again. Thank you.
And I've ruined this song for Alex. Just going to think of James Bond now. Which James Bond, though? When I say James Bond, who comes to mind?
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery, the good one.
Yeah,
the good old original. He hated doing it.
Yeah. Interesting thing, like Pink Floyd, people forget they did 3 records in the 80s. They had, if you're not counting the Wall soundtrack, which actually is an album, but it's really hard to get. You can't even get the vinyl for it if you try. It's hard. They did release it. I do want to get that.
Is that separate? Like, there's different tracks on there?
Yeah, it's different. It's weird.
Okay.
When the Tigers Break Free's on it, and that's definitely not on.
Yeah, that's on Greatest
Hits.
Hits.
It's on Final Cut.
Yeah.
It's a good one, but it's very personal.
Yeah.
So Roger, but anyway, out of their efforts, I mean, the Final Cut. When people say they don't like the Final Cut, I'm like, what are you talking about? I think the Final Cut's really great. I mean, it works right up with The Wall, and so there's some Dave Gilmour stuff on there that's. That Chester Memorial Home for
Memorial Home. Fletcher's. That's a great song.
It's been so long since I listened to that album, but I throw it on, and every time I'm like, what are people talking about? This great album. Rolling Stone originally gave that a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
They gave The Wall a 3 out of 5, and they gave that a 5.
And they gave The Doors like a 0.
Rolling Stones kind of all over the place because like they gave like all the One Direction albums have like 3.5 stars, and it's like, are you kidding? They should be getting negative stars.
Yeah. Yeah, he said. Who was it? No, not Keith Richards. I always blank on their names.
Oh, Robbie Krieger?
No, the singer of the oldest person in the world, Rolling Stones.
Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger. Yeah, I don't know how I mixed that one up, but he said that he saw the Doors like in the '60s, obviously, and he said that they were like one of the worst performances ever because of Jim couldn't like stay on it. But at the same time, I know people that have seen the Doors and they're like, it was fucking amazing.
Now you don't know what they were on, but Jim would have been incredible.
Hell yeah.
That Doors movie, which I wish came out in the '80s so we could talk about it, but
we'll have to talk. 90s. We'll have to do music movies.
That's a good. Music movies going on the topic page.
Yeah, woo.
Movies has a W in it, right?
Music movies. We got this now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to run through this. So, 1980s. Here we go. Blade Runner, E.T., Aliens, Predator, late Pink Floyd. You got David Bowie's got some cool stuff. Queen has some good stuff that they did with David Bowie. Under Pressure. Van Halen, cool stuff. We got all of those slasher movies. We've got The Shining. Incredible movie.
The Shining. Full Metal Jacket.
Stanley Kubrick was incredible.
Yeah.
I think he only did 2 movies, but in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. He only ever made 2 movies, but they were the best ones ever. The Shining and Full Metal Jacket. That's a good repertoire.
He did Shining and Full Metal Jacket. He worked on some other stuff. 2010 came out, but we don't talk about that. It's not even that it's a bad movie. It's just, how do you compare it to 2001?
Yeah.
We have some interesting stuff with horror. I mean, as I said, you have slashers, you have paranormal stuff, you got body horror comes in. Actually, you don't have paranormal. I take it back.
Yeah.
Not a lot of paranormal.
Got sci-fi.
Poltergeist was there, but that was like the last of the paranormal things.
Lots of
sci-fi. We got, let's just dive into New Wave happened.
The Blues Brothers was a movie that came out. That's a great movie.
Joe Montana won, 4 Super Bowls in the 80s, so that was a big deal. 49ers were like the team. I mean, let's see. 80s, the Yankees weren't so good, which is interesting because they have 27 titles, so they're pretty good. Yeah. It's just that one stretch, it was like whatever happened in the 80s,
they stopped doing steroids for a little bit.
No, steroids didn't really happen until the 90s. That was like late 90s. With Barry Bonds hit 73 homers in a season. Like people were sitting there like, yeah, he ain't using anything to help him. Meanwhile, it's like, you know how hard it is to hit 30 home runs in Major League Baseball in a season? This guy hit 73. I don't care what ballpark you're playing in.
Yeah.
You was using something. But, I mean, here's the thing. The misconception about, testosterone and steroids and all that, John, is that it doesn't, you can't just take them and sit and play Madden. You have to wail on those weights.
Yeah, you have to do work.
And they did that work. And I think all those baseball guys are still going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, Hank Aaron's in, and he did meth, basically. He'd speedball, and then he'd go out there and go, whoa!
Yeah,
crack home runs left and right because he was on the meth.
Yeah.
But methamphetamines, apparently don't count as a performance-enhancing drug. I would say they are.
Well, now I'm hearing of, a lot of, well, I couldn't say a lot of, but some athletes are, microdosing. So just using enough so, it doesn't build up to a point where it's testable. But, I mean, tests are getting a lot more sophisticated.
Give us your hair. Uh-oh.
Yeah, right? But I did some stuff 5 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that, NFL players, they get a heads up when they're testing. So the people who still pass, if you don't pass, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
That's true. Bulk up in the off season and then come on with nothing.
MTV launched, which used to be music television, not moron television.
Yeah.
Excess, we had, as I said, American Psycho talks about all the jokes about all the kind of craziness that was going on. it's really interesting that you notice a lot of like critics change how they reviewed stuff in the 80s. Because critics are always trying to stay like cool and hip and stuff. They kind of started like hating on the movies they loved in the 70s. Like directors bring in those kind of movies. Like Francis Ford Coppola had done a huge production, and it's a really good movie. And the guy who did Deer Hunter did the same thing. But meanwhile, everybody's into Friday the 13th, they're in this whole different kind of attitude with movies, and they just started like openly hating the stuff that they were loving the previous couple of years, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? Because there's a lot of great filmmakers
you can't
who
discredit
thrown in the trash.
Yeah, you can't just discredit all that. Deer Hunter's a great movie.
People hated on The Shining. I still hear people hate. They shit on The Shining. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It's one of the greatest movies ever made. Like, Stanley Kubrick put effort into that. Full Metal Jacket, it's boring, it's pretentious. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
It's because it makes you think. A lot of people want things spoon-fed to them.
They do. Well, Friday the 13th is not a spoon-fed movie. The rest of the series, though?
Yeah.
Oh my God, are they? They're so...
Once Jason got in there, right?
Jason gets in there, he's just like tits and blood.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being progressive like Halloween and giving women, roles and speaking parts, let's just show their breasts and have them be decapitated by a deranged madman who's a zombie.
Hey, I mean, it worked.
It worked, though.
It's a big franchise.
It's a huge franchise because there's some sadistic motherfuckers, and I hope I'm talking to some of them.
Yeah.
I like you. I like you, dude. If you're still listening, I mean, I basically lambasted the 2009 Friday the 13th movie. It's not bad. Okay, I give it a 5 out of 10. It's not insulting. It's not bad. It's not demeaning. But like, I would take those classic ones because at least like they were. That was the style of the time.
Yeah. They were original too, in their own way. Yeah.
Some of the kills are original, and there's some cool stuff. That guy who does Kill Count, the Dead Meat YouTuber guy, I love a lot of the Kill Count stuff he does. There's some really cool parts in his kill counts where he goes down and he describes all these kills. And for Friday the 13th, you only need to watch his kill count because there's not really a lot of other things going on in that movie.
Yeah.
That's
why everyone's watching
like
it, though. Oh yeah, of
Game
course.
of Thrones,
of course. Hey, right?
Yeah, man.
A little bit more to that.
All the women listeners, if they were still around, they have now.
Yes. Goodbye. I mean, there's lots of dicks.
Now we have turned into sausage fests who sit in the basement, talking about boobs.
Now we'll have a female on eventually.
We will get a female creature on board.
Oh, jeez. Now they're all gone.
Now they're gone.
Yeah, they weren't gone before.
They weren't gone. They stuck around, and now they said bye-bye.
They're like, all right, I can get with Game of Thrones a little bit. And then you say that. Yep.
Yeah, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, wow. John Carpenter, I think I went into a bunch of his stuff. If you don't know who he is, go on IMDb, look him up, watch all of his movies. Skip Goes to Mars. You can watch it if you go in with a bunch of friends, a bunch of alcohol, and some pizza. Great time. Not good at all. I cried the first time I watched it because I was like, wow, John Carpenter just lost it. Like, it's all gone. All of his talent is gone. And I'm like, no!
Don't go into it with high hopes.
It has Jason Statham, and they're shooting Martians. Like, just watch it. Ice Cube's in it. Ice Cube.
That seems off for him. That seems on for Ice Cube almost.
Ice Cube, Anaconda.
Nowadays.
It Follows was a movie that kind of is like a retro 80s with like a soundtrack and stuff. And I think that kind of stuff's cool when like you're like, we're not going to like, it's not like an 80s ripoff. Like they're not like, let's just rip off that thing people liked. But, like, let's incorporate it into the sound dynamic of our story. It is a little cooler because, like, they integrate it, but the movie doesn't take place in the 80s. It takes place in its, like, own time, which is kind of cool. But that soundtrack really adds to a lot. And I think the synths really fit horror really well. And even they were using them in the 60s on stuff when they could. Yeah. Rosemary's Baby's got some weird stuff, which I have that soundtrack, and it's really cool. Yeah, It Follows, man, I just really like that. Drive, I love Drive. It's one of my top 10 favorite movies. That's got an 80s synthwave kind of score thing going on. Heck, Baby Driver kind of had an 80s kind of thing going on. But this is Drive. This is different. Jake Gyllenhaal, man, take a time machine, go back to the 80s, and make some damn good movies. Did I say Jake Gyllenhaal?
I think you did, yes.
I just did that. Ryan Gosling, I am so sorry. Oh my gosh. I just told Jake Gyllenhaal to take a time machine back to the 80s so that basically...
Makes a good movie.
Because I like Ryan Gosling. I like Jake Gyllenhaal too. Donnie Darko.
Geez.
Donnie Darko's...
Yeah.
Well, that was the next thing on the list. Donnie Darko. It's a great movie. It's an 80s throwback with all 80s music, and that goes full 80s vibes because it uses the music.
Yeah.
It dives really into some weird kind of stuff. Donnie Darko is an incredible. What the hell did I watch?
Yeah.
But I'm so much better off for having done that to myself kind of movie. Drive's one of those. I think Drive's a little more straightforward than Donnie Darko, but there's a whole aspect of like the scorpion and the frog going on, which is some real cool stuff. I love Drive. And I love some synthwave stuff. I think there's some real cool stuff in that music. I should have put this with the sports, but I was like Bo Jackson, because Tecmo Bowl on the NES. If you Tecmo Bowled it up, everybody picked Los Angeles. You were the LA Raiders. You did either a right or a left sweep, and Bo Jackson ran your way to a touchdown. I mean, Bo Jackson, man, that man. He played baseball and football, and if you want to talk about a guy who was an incredible athlete who probably could have, like, I don't know, he could have carried a train if he gave him long enough to learn how to do it. Bo Jackson did some crazy stuff, and there was that commercial like, oh, Bo knows. Bo could do it all. And he could. He ran over Brian Bosworth, who everybody thought was like this invincible guy who was in a lot of terrible action movies in the 90s. And he was in the Tecmo Bowl legend. He did this run when he played for the Kansas City Royals where he ran up a wall, made a crazy play. It's a crazy dude, man. I'd say there's some hidden gems of the 80s. I didn't write any of them down, so that was a mistake.
So that's an open book there, you know.
That's
just
look
it up for yourself, guy. That's what we're here for.
Videodrome is one of those. It's a David Cronenberg movie, but it's got James Woods. He works at a television studio, and he's like televising like some weird like rape porn or something. Like it's some weird shit going on. And then it turns out the signal is cancer. And then he, like, sends the signal at this guy, and he morphs into this, like, pile of, like, mucus bones and stuff. And then he's like, and it's... You watch Videodrome, it's just, like, right now, everybody, what? Check out Videodrome. Yeah. Check out every David Cronenberg movie, Scanners. The movie where the guy's head explodes. That's Scanners. That was Cronenberg. He made some make-you-think movies in a decade that's not known for make-you-think stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's where the spoonfulling almost starting, yeah.
80s pop music, is there anything better? Come on, guys.
Well, I mean, it's the 80s.
Oh my gosh.
It's the 80s. God, you gotta mention MJ.
Yeah.
He wasn't...
Simona.
He wasn't my go-to music thing. I didn't really like him that much. It wasn't my music. Yeah, but he changed.
Oh.
He did some stuff, you know. He did some stuff. I wouldn't say he. I wouldn't
because of MJ.
I wouldn't.
They got like all, but see, I think it changed for the worse though, because you got like background dancers and all that dopey stuff.
Yeah, you get Britney Spears and stuff out of that.
It's not music because the focus isn't on the music. The focus is on breasts and women's bodies, and I mean, not that I'm not a fan, but like
he created his like a show, you know.
Yeah,
he created a type of show.
Pink Floyd was already doing a show though, but there's a reason why they were the second best-selling band ever.
But they integrated
third. My bad. I'm sorry. It goes Beatles, Zeppelin, then Floyd.
See, the music was their show though, like. Lasers and fucking music.
They integrated it though. It worked perfectly. But most people can't do that because that's hard work. So let's just put up some attractive
moonwalking and stuff. Yeah, it was flashy. It was flashy.
Oh, very flashy.
Yeah. It brought pop to the main. I mean, pop is popular music, so obviously brought it more to mainstream view. Glee.
Yeah, I'm looking through my thing here, and there's a lot of, like, notes I wrote that I'm like, this is notes for me. When I use the same page.
Well, I mean, that's usually how it is. Mine's just an amalgam of, like, thoughts.
I have, like,
I got Guns N' Roses, formed 85.
Cringeworthy nostalgia. Okay. Glee. So remember when everybody was singing Don't Stop Believing? Like, it was so annoying. Because here's the thing, like, I heard the song before them. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like,
you acknowledged that it was
I'm like, it's
an okay song.
Good. It's pretty good. It's a cool song.
It was catchy.
But then just, like, all of a sudden,
it became a pop, like a mainstream thing. Like, just the song. Not even the band. Just the song.
Like, and then the girls would be like, I'm a huge fan of Journey. And it's like, name a song. But there's Don't Stop Believing, and it just really, every version of it.
It speaks to me.
It changed my life.
Yeah.
And you just can't invalidate that.
Invalidate. Me.
She had a croissant and a disco.
Had a crepe, and then they went home.
Had some pancakes on the morrow. And then I went back home.
Sound like Stewie there. Hey there, hey.
No, I went Ringo from the Beatles.
Ringo.
Guys, what are we doing? Are we going to do some music, or we're just going to sit around? That's definitely John.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's more John, but it's more like... Ringo. You know? Like...
We'll put this on the...
So, like, there is stuff that's, like, cringeworthy nostalgia, and it's, like, sometimes it's, like, I don't want it to be popular, because then it'll be ruined. Like, because... It's like when you give something to the masses, it's just like they take it and they...
Yeah, it's not like they mangle it up and then...
It's not beautiful anymore.
Yeah.
Don't let the pretty girls hang out with the ugly dudes. They'll be ruined.
There's something about the it being more underground that's more appealing than like everybody loves it.
Yeah.
I guess it's probably an evolutionary thing so that there's diversity there. I mean,
yeah, it's just interesting that there's so much you can pull from, and it's so interesting to hear like, oh, we got 18 remakes and 2 other reboots and this, that, and the other thing, and it's like, what about the other stuff though? Like, we don't need only remakes, reboots.
That's what I've been saying lately too. All I've been seeing is
the Ghostbusters remake. Why?
Like I went to school for blowing glass, and it's an art school. So when I took the classes, they basically said that you need to forget where I was going there. Oh, mind blank. My blank.
For glass blowing and something.
Yeah, it was something that the art teacher told me. The right before that.
Yeah.
Right before that. Where was I? Oh yeah, imitation and emulation. Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, the basically to learn the way that. Like your master. That's how like artists used to learn. They used to learn from a master, and they would imitate their thing. So they would learn exactly. They would repaint what the person drew, redraw it, recreate their exact thing, and then after that, you're supposed to take what you learned from that and emulate.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah, emulation. So like you're taking what you see and then you're making your own thing out of it. But all these movies and stuff that I'm seeing come out nowadays it's all imitation.
It's not art anymore.
They're not bringing out the emulation.
Yeah.
But I mean, like they are remaking it in their own views and stuff. So there is like little fresh.
There's a lot of good stuff. The Evil Dead remake's pretty good.
Yeah. I guess it brings it for a new generation.
Yeah. I mean, I find for me, like, a lot of times when I hear stuff like, oh, that's old or blah, 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 I'm like, look at it through different eyes. Like, don't go into it expecting a modern movie. Go into it expecting whatever it's going to give you. And go along for the journey.
Exactly.
There's so much good old stuff that if you just go in like, where's this taking me? I remember the first time I saw Psycho, I was like, oh, this is an old movie. It's black and white. Okay, let's see where this goes. And it starts out, and I'm like, wow, I'm hooked. This is taking me somewhere. This is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved the movie. And I was like, oh, but this is one of those old movies. Like, I had a kind of thought to that, and it's weird. You think about it, but then you go and give it a shot.
I feel like it's comparing. Good. Like, people compare things too much.
Yeah. Like, well, especially nowadays, because everybody's like, oh, what's the number? What's the score?
Yeah, you should be able to go into a movie, just watch it, and have an like, don't compare it to, like, a Steven Spielberg movie or something like that. Like, Tom makes a movie, and you go see his movie.
I wrote that down when I talked about how Halloween 2018 has a 6.8 on IMDb, and I'm like, really? That's kind of low. And then I looked up some other movies, like It Follows has a 6.8. The Witch has a 6.8. Babadook has a 6.8. It's like, if it's a good horror movie, it has to have a 6.8 on IMDb. It's like, what the hell? It's like a big chunk like it, and a big chunk don't like it, and it averages out to be about an average score.
I've learned to distrust, like, people that, like, critics.
Yeah.
Like, I'll trust the audience's review more, obviously, because, I mean, they're the people that are watching. But it's like, I'm supposed to listen to this person that I've never met and tell me their opinion on a movie. I get it. I get
tough.
it. It's a good way to, like, do it, but I feel like a lot of them are just shitting on things.
Yeah, some of them do. Some shit on everything that comes their way. And then there's other critics who do kind of give the benefit of the doubt, but then there's other critics where, like, where do we draw the line? If you're on YouTube, are you a critic? Or are you a critic if you write for the Wall Street Journal? Or, I mean...
Well, I mean, if you're on YouTube, I see someone that's, like, giving their opinion. It's just their opinion. I don't see them as a critic. Because, like,
they're reviewers.
It's more personal. But, like, critics, it's their job to criticize.
And sometimes they're like, well, here's the other thing. People forget that critics see so many movies. They're out seeing all the new movies. Cliches are going to bother them a lot more than the average person. If you watch a movie, let's say you watch a movie once every other week, critics are probably watching 2-3 movies a day.
Yeah.
If you throw something at them and it's some cliche, basic story that doesn't go anywhere or do anything, they're going to tear it apart.
Yeah.
But somebody who doesn't see a lot of movies would watch that, and they might find entertainment. They're like, these critics are just hating on it. This is wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Which
I don't
is
watch.
Part of it too.
I don't have that overstimulation of movies. Yeah.
And that's why it's true. Like, it's tough because can you really be too harsh on the critics? I mean, some of them, there's sometimes where I'll read a review and I'm like, what movie did you watch? And then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, he's exactly right. Because sometimes it's like, we're looking for different things in the movie. I mean, I know some people who literally, like, they said they liked the movie because, like, the girl was hot and she got naked for a lot of the movie. It's like, that's a weird reason to like it, but, I mean...
Okay. Everyone likes porn. It's okay.
Meanwhile, you know, like that, like a really good movie, you know, you're not... A lot of people can agree on, like, that The Shawshank Redemption's a good movie. Like, and a lot of people are going to, like, fight me on that. But, like, I come out tomorrow and I say, one of my favorite movies is Only God Forgives. And a lot of people didn't like that movie. And if I say that, they're like, well, let me tell you why you're wrong. It's
you're going to get a bunch of emails.
I'm like, Only God Forgives is not a bad movie to me. Like, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's a movie that really challenges me, and it's really weird. And the way everything's kind of delivered is done in such an interesting way that it tells a story, and you have to really pay attention. You really have to, like, use context clues, because he does a lot of stuff revolving, like, a lot of Alejandro Jodorowsky stuff. He delves a lot into that kind of, like, weird kind of storytelling, and he even dedicates the movie to him, and if you pay attention and you see that, everything makes sense. But if you don't know Jodorowsky, you're going to go in and you're going to see that and you're like, I don't know what it being dedicated to him means. And then you see the whole movie and you're like, it's this thing with hands. He's just looking at hands and there's music and hands. And it's like, he's getting his burdens lopped off at the end so he can be freed of his sin. Like, that's what the movie's about. Mm-hmm. It's about man committing sin and then being forgiven for his sin. I know that's
part of that spoonful, culture there.
But it's this thing where the whole movie, he actually fights God in a scene. Like, what other movie can you say, like, a dude fought God? Like, that's some fucking crazy shit.
I haven't seen any movies where people fight Morgan Freeman.
So, that's the thing about criticism, is that we all like different stuff. And I think that rather than being dicks about it, be like, this is the kind of movie, and for people who want this kind of experience, here you go.
Yeah, have more of an open mind. Don't, like, shit on something just because you don't like it. Just agree with it. Like, just.
I mean, I used to say all modern rock music is bad, and then I started listening to some stuff, and I'm like, wow, there's actually some good stuff.
There's good things and bad
there's good
things.
Bad things in all decades.
Throughout all time. You don't think that classical, like Beethoven was sitting there? I mean, he couldn't hear.
There's some shitty musicians back then we just don't hear about.
Mozart being like, fuck this guy. Stradivarius.
Yeah, Little Yachty is not going to escape the 2010s. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Never heard of him, so there you go. He already didn't escape that.
He did a song, Cool at Minnesota. I mean, no offense if you're listening, Little Yachty. I mean, I'm glad to have you as a fan, but...
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
But, that song was pretty weak. You know what I mean? Like
it's not my style of music there, so yeah.
It's just it's really crazy because you have to really think hard. Like when you're thinking about decades and stuff, like you're remembering certain stuff, and you forget about
when
all
you
that crap
when you
that
go
was
to
there.
think, like when you say 1980s, like you say the 80s, and you're like, yeah, how much can I really think of the 80s? And you try and think of it, and then you think of a bunch of things, but then you have to make sure that it was in the 80s, you know? Yeah. Like, a lot of these things, like, I had to look up. Like, I just looked up.
Terminator 2 was the 90s. People always think that's in the 80s.
I thought it was 88, too. Oh. Yeah, I was like, man, I was going to put that movie in there. That movie's awesome. Mm-hmm. I grew up watching that movie.
Oh, that was one of my favorites as a
kid. And, like, I couldn't include that. That'll be our 90s episode. There we go. Yeah, got Terminator
90s 2. Episode will be real good.
Yeah.
House of Chains.
Got lots of that, yeah.
Got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah. So 1980s, what do you
I mean, I only have a couple more bullets here, and then, I mean, you have one thing I do want to tackle here is just the idea of nostalgia, because people have this idea that, like, oh, the 80s and nostalgia is this original thing. Like, people have never had nostalgia before. It's like, are you kidding?
No.
And I'm like, there's some good examples.
You don't think that in the 1930s people were nostalgic about the 20s?
They're nostalgic about something.
I had money.
Yeah. Stand By Me is nostalgic about the 50s. That's from the 80s. There's a ton of 80s stuff about the 50s, which makes it interesting. Yeah. In the 2010s, the 80s.
Well, the people that made those movies were people that were nostalgic about them. Like, people that are making movies now are going to be nostalgic about the 80s, so...
Did people? I have to wonder. Like, were people complaining in 1982 or 83?
Yeah,
like,
being
my God, Stand By Me, like
two 1940s.
50s,
yeah,
50s.
Yeah.
It's like,
why would I want to relive my childhood or something like that? Yeah, like
I don't know that people were like that back then. And then again, people are a lot more opinionated than they used to be, because if you were gonna say something to somebody, you had to say it to their face.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you just type it in on a comment section and you feel big about yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of inflates your opinion too. Like you can convince your own opinions there.
Yeah.
Like you could convince yourself that you don't like something.
Go anywhere and like find somebody who has the most opposite views of you and just go through their comment section on like their stuff.
Oh, they'll contradict themselves.
You'll see some interesting things.
Yeah.
But you also have like Stray Cats are 50s. You have modern psychedelic stuff. You have a lot of 60s style things coming out. You have like Garage Revival, which is a lot of like 70s. And then the movie Mid-90s just came out recently, and that's 90s nostalgia. Radio Days is a Woody Allen movie that's about the 30s and 40s with the radio era, before television and such. And then Midnight in Paris, Owen Wilson's going back to the 20s because he's like, that's the best period in time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And it's this whole story about, you know, he wants to be in the 20s because that's the thing. And he goes back there, and everybody's telling him about how much they love the 1890s or something. And it's like, you're romanticizing about this other period? No, this is the time. Yeah. You have Ernest Hemingway. You have these legends. You have so much cool stuff going on in literature. And as a literature fan, the character really loves that era. He's like, Great Gatsby, man. Great Gatsby. You guys had money and excess and all these things. And
I feel like having it takes the value away a lot. Because once you don't have it, then you're just like, wow, that was such a great time. Like, that was amazing.
You don't realize how great
like Led Zeppelin's there, and then until John Bonham dies.
You keep expecting them to be there.
Yeah, and then John Bonham dies, and you're just like, I just lost all my next chances to see him or something like
you're
that.
never
Like,
gonna see Zeppelin.
no more Zeppelin's coming out. No new albums.
Imagine you were a kid, you're like, I'm going to see him, I'll catch him on the next tour.
Yeah.
I was with AC/DC, I was going to see him, and then they replaced Brian Johnson with Axl Rose, and I wasn't going to go see that.
I've wanted to see AC/DC for years, and then I was just like, oh, they'll probably keep going. I'll probably have a chance, and then no.
Yep, the tour I was going to see him, actually, was that...
really fell apart.
Yeah, because Brian Johnson
snowballed. And
AC/DC's
dementia.
80s.
Yeah.
We didn't even go...
I had a little bit. I did a Brian Johnson time. Yeah.
DC.
Or not Brian Johnson, Bon Scott. Jeez. Brian Johnson's still alive, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's not even like he died. Like,
I meant Bon Scott there, but...
Wayne Gretzky was the 80s when he destroyed every scoring record. I mean, Wayne Gretzky was a hell of a player. I mean, obviously, by the fact, he has some crazy records. Now, it's just hard to really sit there and think, for, diehard hockey fans, Gretzky, didn't even play a full season one year, and he scored, 93 goals in a season. There's some guys I got 25 goals, that's a great year. I had 50 points in a whole season. That's a good year. Wayne Gretzky is I had 250 points. Yeah, no problem. I mean...
But just throw him the pick the whole time?
But what's crazy, though, if Ovechkin keeps it up, he's going to pass Gretzky in goals, which might be really interesting to see. But we'll see how that goes. I really do. Speaking of that, I'm going to go into one of my favorite games of all time, ice hockey for the NES. It's just a really fun game. There's 2 buttons. You got shooting and passing and moving, obviously. You got the D-pad. It's just a really fun game. You could do different speeds, different times. You got all these things going on. You got big players, small players. It's really cool. It's just a really good game, and it really goes to talk about how so many simple games are so good still from that era. Nintendo really put their hearts and souls in a lot of the stuff coming out. Legend of Zelda changed games, man. A story mode, are you kidding?
Oh, yeah.
People didn't have that stuff. Yeah. You can go to an arcade, play a game for a couple hours, but you got a home console and you've got this thing called Legend of Zelda, and there's a story mode, and you're going on an adventure. There were story modes before, but Legend of Zelda blew that away.
Oh, yeah.
They're still doing it. Nintendo really does a great job with their stuff.
Yeah, they really did.
80s is the decade where they the NES took control of the video game market.
Yep.
They thought video games were going to be a thing of the past.
No.
They said home consoles are done because the Atari 2600 was failing. And all of a sudden, the NES came out in 85. In Japan, it was the Famicom. I think that was 82 or 83. They released that, and they, Donkey Kong and Mario and all those games you think of when you think of classic arcades, Burger Times on the NES. You got so much cool things in that decade on video games that was just innovation. Mm-hmm. Anytime there's innovation, good stuff's coming.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why when I talk music, and I'm everything goes well until about the mid to late 90s, and then all of a sudden things got stale and boring and bland.
You know what's great about that time for games, though? You could only have those games then.
Yeah.
That quality of game, because that's what they were limited to.
Yeah.
That's what they started with. If they had today's technology, but there wasn't games out, and then they made a game, you would never have Donkey Kong or anything like that. You might be climbing up some fucking tower trying to get some gorilla guy named Donkey Kong, but it wouldn't be that 2D jumping over barrel, and it wouldn't be that same 80s nostalgia type feeling.
There's something special about it though, because you got to sit there and go these were people walking in the darkness not knowing what's there. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, nowadays, I think the problem is there's so much light that people they don't feel free to explore anything. They're not.
Yeah.
But where do you explore? Where do you go? And that's the real question. But people have always been saying, there's quotes from there was a guy in 1899 and he was saying, oh, I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 100 years, but he goes, I can't imagine much, because he goes, we've already invented everything that we possibly can. And this is from 1899.
Yeah.
You're sitting there going,
the internet.
You're quite a lot of things happen, but this guy said, yeah, We've already invented everything we can.
Yeah.
And people always keep saying that, and it's one of those things where it's like, maybe there's no limits to people.
The thing is with that is that things that are discovered today won't, most likely, a lot of the time, don't have practicality for the next 100 years.
Yeah, there'll be something that's better.
Like graphene is a fairly recent thing that it's 1 atom layer thick of carbon. They basically took graphite and took like tape and sat there, kept going back at it until they got 1 layer atom thick of it. It's this really strong material, clear material that they can use. It's like a saran wrap type thing, but like it's 10 times stronger than saran wrap is. It's like ridiculous. Like they had this sheet and they put weights on it. That's how they test the weight resistance. But there's so many practical things for it, nanotubes and all that other stuff though. But like carbon nanotubes, sure, they're being used nowadays as like for many things like heart valves and stuff like that. But at the same time, that technology 100 years from now will be used for things that we never would have thought.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really cool thought to that, because you're like, look at where we are now. But then we also look at the side effects and we're like, we've never been more disconnected than we are now. At least supposedly. Like, it's weird.
Well, like you were saying earlier, like the internet is the biggest information thing that's probably ever happened in
ever since books. Thank you. No,
yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. But I mean, like, it's just like so much information. So much information is accessible by everybody that like I feel like nobody knows where to start.
Yeah.
Like if you go to play an instrument, right? There's so much information out there. Like, sure, there's probably like here's where you start type tutorials, but like if you're trying to teach yourself, like, do you start with the scales? Do you start with the chords? Do you start learning songs or something like that? It's back in the day, there was more of a fine line on where you start.
You had to learn from the records.
Yeah,
man.
Exactly.
You had to start from your influences. You had to rip them off.
Sound it all out.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix didn't know how to write music.
Eric Clapton, yeah.
I mean, those guys that were like, what sounds good? Let's do that.
The greatest guitar players, some of the greatest guitar players in recent history, and they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. But it's some of the magic. I mean, a lot of times with, talking about CGI, it's like, yes, it makes anything possible, but maybe those things shouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
Maybe it's ruining the art of things, because I almost feel like CGI is the biggest crutch. It's supposed to be this huge advantage, but what it does is it makes you just go, well, we'll just do it in post, so it makes you lazy.
Yeah.
And I think that's also some of the thing with music. Oh, we'll just auto-tune it, we'll auto-produce it, we'll do this, we'll click this, we'll make her breasts bigger for the album cover, we'll just sell her.
That's how I've been for music. Like, a lot of people that I've known, they're like, you have to go about it this way, and like, sure, my knowledge might not be as vast as theirs, but I can still get as good of a quality end product.
Uh-huh.
But it's going to be different. There might be more technical, but mine could sound just as good. And it's all how they do it. It's not like... That's what I'm saying. You can't technificate everything. Making up words here. Technificate.
That sums up everything.
Yeah, it does.
You just technificate and you fornicate. And No, it's...
That's about life right there.
Yeah. You do the technology.
You technificate, you fornicate.
You make the green, you get the green.
And then you go to jail for the rest of your life.
Bill. No. Yeah. Bill Cosby.
Can't blame me.
We can't do Cosby Show. Was that 80's?
Was it?
I think it was 9. No, there was 2. Let's just not even talk about it. Listen, Bill Cosby doesn't deserve our talk, because now we're keeping him alive, man. We're keeping the memory of a rapist alive.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean...
But it's weird, like, at the time, nobody would have been like, Bill Cosby,
dude, people looked up to him so much. Like, he was such a big people. Even
guy.
like Norm Macdonald. He had a thing. He's just like, yeah, I looked up to him all the time. He's like, yeah, that was before he did all that stuff. But before that, he was my top guy there. Yeah, and it's just like, you know, he did create like Fat Albert and all this other things.
Yeah.
He was a creator. Like, he did some stuff.
I think, you know what's funny? It's weird because the times are changing, and there's a lot of those big innovator guys, and you go back and you look through what they did, and it's like,
yeah,
wow. But then it makes you really think about, like,
everybody has some
everybody's
stuff.
got something.
Yeah.
I mean,
some of it's a lot worse than others.
You know,
but
I really hope most people don't have, like, rape allegations against them.
Know. Yeah.
But, like,
it just goes to show we're all flawed in some way.
Yeah.
Like, we're not perfect. The greatest people that people look up to are some of the most flawed people that there are.
Yeah. I have flaws. Yeah. I'm one of the greatest people ever.
Exactly. You heard it here first.
That's why we're Alex and the Kevins.
Yeah. Alex first, Kevin second.
Yeah. And no Tom. I hope Tom's listening.
Oh yeah, he will be. He will be one of our 4 followers there. All right, 5.
So it's really interesting the way we're doing this is that this is going to get released as the first episode. And then the episode we recorded first is going to get released later this week.
And the funniest part is this is part of the podcast.
This is part of the podcast. We've just matrixed you.
Hey.
We just gave you that, the blue pill or the red pill? We gave you one of them.
You're getting business talk here, guys.
Business talk. So, I mean, I guess I just got to say this, like, it's been fun doing this. Like,
yeah.
This podcast and stuff, like, it's a really interesting...
You know, I've needed something to really stimulate my mind lately. I've been like slacking off on all this stuff, and I haven't been memorizing stuff like that. But like this is forcing me to look things up and get in touch with things that I've actually grown up with more.
Right now,
and you know, I just but yeah, this is great. This is awesome. Having fun doing this.
It's gonna continue to get better. And
conversational is a skill. It's a skill.
All right. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this episode.
80's nostalgia.
And we'll talk to you later, bro.
Yep. See you next time.
See you next time. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.